Hi, I'm Mickey Delmage of Sherwood Park, Alberta. Hear the latest information from the world of radio, locally and internationally, each week on the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal and online at ckut.ca.
Welcome, everyone, to the International Radio Report for Sunday, October the 12th, 2025. We thank you for tuning in. My name's Sheldon. I'm here with Jill, and we have a lot of stories for you today in our 30 minutes. We'll take you around the world and fill you in on what's going on in radio. We have a sad story to start off with today, and it's from here in Montreal, an obituary for a very well-known radio and TV broadcaster, CBC veteran Dennis Trudeau. The report says he was a wonderful storyteller. This is by RENÉ BRUEMMER of the Montreal Gazette. Dennis Trudeau, familiar to generations of Montrealers as a longtime CBC television news anchor and across Canada as the voice of the nationally broadcast As It Happens radio show, has died. Trudeau was 77. He died Monday in Montreal after a years-long battle with cancer. He served as the head news anchor on CBC Newswatch, later known as Canada Now, from 1987 to 2005, delivering the headlines of the day during the supper-time broadcasts. Prior to that, he worked as a CBC radio host for the Montreal Morning Daybreak program and also the As It Happens show. I had a tremendous amount of respect for him, said former CBC journalist Tom Harrington, who worked with Trudeau first on Daybreak and later for 7 years on CBC Newswatch. He was an old-school journalist. He had worked in the newspaper business before he came to radio in Montreal. So he was a different kind of host in that he was a newsman first. He did hard-hitting interviews with everybody. He had worked at the National Assembly for years, so he was very familiar with Quebec politics and federal politics. In our newsroom, there was a lot of young reporters, and Dennis was a kind of a standard bearer. He really demanded high quality from our reporters, Harrington said. Trudeau anchored the Supper Hour show for 18 years, which is an astonishing record, said Harrington. He was someone who always strove for accuracy and fairness, and he was a wonderful storyteller who continued to tell stories after he retired from the CBC for many years, said Dave Kaufman, a family friend and former radio host on CJAD. Trudeau was born in Ottawa and studied political science and philosophy there before obtaining a graduate diploma in journalism from Western University. He moved to Quebec to work as a journalist and hone his French skills. He started as a political news reporter, writing for the Gazette and the Montreal Star, then covered the National Assembly for the Chronicle Telegraph in Quebec City, earning just $90 a week. In 1971, at the age of 23, he moved to Montreal to work for the Canadian Press, living in a rundown yet charming one-bedroom furnished apartment near the corner of St. Catherine Street and Atwater Avenue. On St. Catherine, it felt like a cool place to be, he wrote in the Coolopolis online magazine. Trudeau was hired in 1979 by the CBC, starting work as a radio broadcaster in Montreal, then moving to cross-country checkup before being chosen to co-host As It Happens in Toronto, CBC's flagship evening radio broadcast heard across the country. He came back to Montreal in 1987 to start as news anchor for Newswatch and stayed for 18 years. He was someone who always strove for accuracy and fairness, and he was a wonderful storyteller. He continued to be involved in the media, working as vice president for Reporters Without Borders in Canada, briefly as a morning radio host on the now-defunct AM 940, and as a freelance commentator on world affairs for Montreal's French-language news talk station 98.5 FM. He also ran his own communications company, freelancing as an event moderator or spokesperson, and traveled widely with his wife, Suzanne. Trudeau is survived by his wife, Suzanne Jobin, son Sam, and his wife, Sarah, and his grandchild, Jacob. So a really honorable career in both radio and television and journalism, print media as well. I'm sure many of our Montreal listeners will remember the name and across the country with Across Canada Checkup, As It Happens, program that was carried even into the U.S. as well. Pretty much anybody that's been involved in radio for some time has probably run across the name of Dennis Trudeau.
When I saw the name, the first thing that I thought was, wow, Dennis Trudeau. I have not heard that name in such a long time. I remember him a lot on TV, so sad to see that he passed away. So in the next story, we have the Summer 2025 BPM radio ratings for Montreal, Toronto, Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver. This is by David Bray for Broadcast Dialogue. In terms of radio measurement, we remain in a state of confused and confusing. Significant methodology changes are on the near horizon. PPM markets will continue to live with low sample sizes. Numerous is preparing to replace diaries with a different approach. They explored and analyzed two alternatives before settling on one. That decision has yet to be formally announced. It has been confirmed that diaries will continue to be the currency for both fall 2025 and spring 2026 books. Not to mention, all of the former diary markets dropped by numerous and left without measurement. All of this will undoubtedly result in very significant changes in the way radio is bought and sold. With this book, radio retains an average weekly reach of 80% for Canadian ages 12 and up, and home represents 50% of the tuning. Out of home is the other 50% of tuning. For Canadians, 11% of radio consumption comes from AM, FM, live radio streaming. Let's forge on. The latest PPM release from Numerous completes the 14-week period from May 26, 2025 to August 31st, 2025. So if we look at the 5 BPM markets, we've got Toronto. Bragging rights at the top of the ratings heap go to Boom 97.3, delivering an 11.1% share for ages 12 and up. That's down from 12.5%. Boom comes out on top for women, 25.54, with a 12.2% share, down from 13.9%. Closely followed by CHFI with 11.6%. For men 25 to 54, KISS 92.5 leads with an 11.7% share, followed by Boom and 680 News, both with 10.2%. Boom is out in front for the males 18 to 34 with a 11.2%, followed by Q107 at 10.6%. 680 News, 10.5%, KISS, 10.2%, and 102.1, The Eagle, 10%. CHFI is number one for women 18 to 34 with a 15.4% share, followed by KISS, 92.5, with a 15% share.
We move out to Vancouver with CBC Radio 1 grabs the number 1 spot for adults 12 and over with a 15.7 share of hours tuned, up from 14.1. Taking the top spot for women 25 to 54 is 94.5 Virgin Radio with a 16.7 share, up from 10.3. Rock 101 holds the lead for men 25 to 54 listeners, delivering an 18.4, up from 11.7%. Virgin is out in front for men 18 to 34 with 15% share. When it comes to women 18 to 34, Virgin takes the lead with 19.5, up from 6.7. So some really dramatic increases in Vancouver.
In Edmonton, CISN takes number 1 with ages 12 and up, posting a 12.6% share, up from 11.5 of hours tuned. Up 99.3 holds top spot for female 25-54, delivering a 21.7% share. That's down from 18.6. Now Radio tops the list for males 25-54 with a 10% share, closely followed by KISS 91.7 with 9.9%. For males 18 to 34, Play 107 is out in front with 16.3%. In the hotly contested female 18-34, CISN led with 27.6%, followed closely by Up 99.3, delivering 26.6%.
In Calgary, CBC Radio 1 leads the way for audience 12 and up with a 17.4 share. The CBC Radio 1 is also popular with women, taking the number one spot for 25 to 54, delivering a 10.2 share, followed by Star 95.9 with a 9.7 share. Men at 25 to 54, 90.3 AMP Radio rules with a 13% share, up from 12.9. AMP Radio is also the top spot for men 18 to 34, delivering a 22.7%, up from 19.9. Virgin Radio tops females 18 to 34, posting a 10.8%, followed by CJAY at 10.7.
And here in Montreal, Radio-Canada Première is number one for ages 12 and up in the Franco side of things, with 20.2% share, down from 20.8%. For ages 12 and up, Anglo, CJAD 800 is number one with 30.8% share, down from 33.8%. 105.7 Rythme FM is tops with women, taking number one spot for females 25-54 in the Franco side, delivering an 18.3% share. For females 25-54 Anglo, The Beat 92.5 is out in front with a 26.5% share. That's up from 21.4%. And for males 25-54 Franco, Radio-Canada Première is on top with a 19.5% share. And for males 25-54 Anglo, The Beat is number one at 21.9%. What is interesting here, they don't talk about 98.5, which seems to have taken a nosedive since they lost all of their big personalities. And Radio-Canada Première has taken really the lead from that station. It's basically in the Franco side here, it's a battle between 98.5 and Radio-Canada Première. It's simple. For the rest, of course, CJAD, number one, with far ahead as usual, and The Beat, 92.5 is pretty strong too.
And of course, we can't go through Montreal ratings without mentioning the lack of the appearance of Virgin Radio. Nowhere to be seen on these numbers.
Nope.
I don't know how many times in a row that's happened, but it's way too many, and we always say it. We cannot believe that they haven't made some kind of change at that radio station.
Definitely.
I really think country is the way for them to go. And I don't know why that somebody won't give it a chance here in Montreal. We just had 40,000 people show up for that Lasso Country Music Festival, second year in a row, I think it was. Yeah. There's obviously a market for it, but nobody seems to want to take a chance here in Montreal. It's rather strange.
Yeah, I don't know. When your station is almost last, if not last, try something. Can be worse.
We have an interesting article. We won't read the article, but give you this is something you can go take a look at if you're interested, talking about ratings. This is for the United States. The Neilson Radio Ratings for the top 300 U.S. states radio markets, May through August of 2025. This is via Radio Online. If you'd like to see the ratings for the top 300 markets in the U.S., it is conveniently compiled on a page from the Radio Online webpage. We're going to put the link up. You simply go to the link and you can pick from 1 to 50, 50 to 100, 101 to 150, etc., all the way up to 300. Click and you'll have a list of the cities. Then you just pick the city you want to have access to, and it lists all of the stations in that market in the order of their share. So then you can also click on the individual station, and that will take you directly to the station's webpage. So it's really neat to have all of this packed together in one simple website. This report is as of August 2025, age 6 and up, Monday through Sunday, 6 a.m. to midnight. And it's based on a population of 16,563,900, which is broken down between the Black audience, Hispanic audience, and the rest. So it was updated on September the 8th, 2025. So we'll put the link for you. Go check it out. You can see all of those top 300 radio markets and see what's happening in each of them. I found it really quite interesting, particularly if there's some stations, some of the big ones that you hear, clear channel stations that are heard over a wide audience and wide territory. You might just want to see where they are and see what formats.
So what's happening with our sun? Well, our sun this week did have a lot of fast solar wind that would actually interact with the geomagnetic field of the Earth. So it created unsettled conditions many days, sometimes reaching the G1 class geomagnetic storm levels. So it's an up and down week that happened this week pretty much for propagation. In the coming days, there is a coronal hole that is sending out a lot of solar wind, so that could actually impact us some more in the next few days. The sun number is 87, the solar flux is 122, and so the week ahead, well, we'll see how it is. It might be a good week, it might be an up and down week. It all depends on what the sun is going to do. And to notice and to really verify propagation, there's one thing you need. You need to turn on a radio and listen.
Hey, this is John Fisher of North Chelmsford, Massachusetts. I listen to the International Radio Report every Sunday morning at 10:30 on CKUT 90.3 FM in the fair city of Montreal.
So in our next story, we have Gen Z's College Radio Revival by Emily White, Emwhitenoise via Radioworld. Reports say that Gen Z isn't discovering new artists, but college radio stations are overflowing with new DJs. As young listeners reject algorithms for analog, the industry should pay attention. It's been a weird summer for the music industry. The fewest new hits in U.S. history. No song of the summer. An AI artist just signed a $3 million record deal. The biggest band on the charts, Hunter X, a fictional K-pop girl group from a Netflix movie. The vibes are off. In September, a bombshell report from media research crystallized the mood. Music discovery is at a generational crossroads, it argues. Music discovery is traditionally associated with youth, but today's 16 to 24-year-olds are less likely than 25 to 34-year-olds to have discovered an artist they love in the last year. Read that again. Younger consumers, typically the drivers of cultural trends, are less likely to discover new artists compared to 25 to 34-year-olds. And even when they do discover artists, they are less likely to stream that artist's music, according to the report. If you stop reading here, you might conclude young people just don't care about music anymore. However, one unexpected source of music discovery is quietly booming among Gen Z listeners: college radio. I spoke to 7 student general managers and surveyed 80-plus DJs at stations across America. ACRN, Ohio University, WCBN, University of Michigan, WEGL, Auburn University, WHRW, Binghamton University, WRFL, University of Kentucky, WVBR, Cornell University, and WZBC, Boston College. They told me the student interest in college radio has dramatically increased in recent years. Stations that once struggled to fill airtime are now turning people away, shortening shows, alternating time slots, and running training programs just to keep up with the demand from aspiring student DJs. For decades, college radio championed underground artists before they hit the mainstream. Against all odds, COVID shutdowns, FCC regulations, and the long decline of FM radio, college radio is thriving again. Now, this is a very lengthy story, and it is very interesting. Actually, we're discovering all sorts of very interesting tidbits about our younger generation and how they discover music. It's very, very good. It's already posted. This story is posted on the Facebook group of the International Radio Report. The link will also show up on the YouTube channel once the video before the show is posted.
Yeah, it's encouraging for college radio. I know when I saw the story, I sent it to our programming people and music people here at CKUT, being a campus community radio station. And they were quite pleased to see the article, and I'm sure it's passed around to all the staff and DJs at the station. And definitely, if you want to hear different music, these are the types of stations to listen to, because a lot of bands getting exposure on college radio that you probably aren't hearing anywhere else at the way the music industry is going right now. So check out the article. Really good, interesting reading. Our next story is from the Reporters Without Borders. 21 nations call on the Israeli government to open Gaza to foreign media and allow evacuation of Palestinian journalists. Now, this story might be changing as things are happening this weekend with the ceasefire appearing to have finally succeeded. Let's hope that it does.
Yeah.
But in the appeal launched from the United Nations headquarters in New York City, 21 states called on the Israeli authorities to open the Palestinian territory to the international media and allow the evacuation of journalists who wish to leave. They also demanded protection for journalists and media professionals in Gaza. This appeal follows the ministerial side event initiated by Reporters Without Borders on September the 24th, which brought together 11 ministers and over 20 countries. The appeal was the fruit of a ministerial event organized by Reporters Without Borders and the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs, dedicated to the protection of journalists in Gaza. It was the first high-level meeting on the subject in 2 years at the UN, where several Palestinian journalists from Gaza were able to recount their lived experiences. It also follows the campaign organized by RSF on the 1st of September, in which over 250 media outlets from 70 countries blacked out homepages and interrupted broadcasting in support of Gaza's journalists. RSF thanks the signatory states and stands ready to assist them in making concrete progress in implementing an action plan. 10 years after the adoption of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2222, its fundamental principles, including the contribution of journalists to the protection of civilians, remain more relevant than ever, and the situation facing journalists in Gaza is posing a grave challenge to the protection of journalists in armed conflict. The smear campaigns and targeted strikes by the Israeli armed forces must not lead to the normalization of these crimes and a regression in international law, which is not a legal construct or a political totem, but a moral imperative. The unprecedented communications operation on September the 1st, initiated by RSF, gathered the international community around 3 key words: protection, access, and evacuation. The time for words is long over. Now we must act. And this was by Thibault Brutin, the RSF Director General. So proposed by France, the appeal was also signed by Australia, Belgium, Canada, Chile, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Germany, Greece, Iceland, Ireland, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Norway, Qatar, Slovenia, Sweden, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom. And the appeal reads as follows. On September the 24th, during the high-level week of the United Nations General Assembly, France, together with Reporters Without Borders, organized an event dedicated to the situation of journalists in Gaza. At the end of this event, this statement was endorsed by 21 countries. We met together with representatives of civil society to discuss the protection of journalists in Gaza and access to information. We pay tribute to the journalists killed and injured in Gaza while carrying out their work. We reaffirm their commitment to the safety of journalists and media professionals in Gaza and demand that their protection be ensured in accordance with international humanitarian law. We call on the Israeli authorities to allow journalists who wish to leave the Gaza Strip to do so and to authorize access for independent foreign media to Gaza. We recall our commitment to the principles of press freedom and freedom of expression. Safe access to information is essential for journalists and media professionals to be able to do their work. A free and pluralistic press is necessary for the functioning of democracy. So, as we said, with the peace accord looking like it's going to succeed, things may change. Some of these requests by Reporters Without Borders through the UN might happen. We'll have to wait and see. But it would be really good to have firm protection of journalists, be they local or international. And hopefully they'll let some international broadcasters in there and journalists to really see what's going on, and hopefully as they try to restore Gaza.
We've got some amateur radio, the expeditions, and special events coming up.
A lot of stations are preparing for the upcoming CQ Worldwide Contest, which we'll be telling you about on next week's show, I guess. A major ham radio event taking place all over the world. So there are stations being set up in some places where there's generally not a lot of activity in ham radio. So they'll be testing out their equipment. They'll be on the air this coming week in some of these operations. So we'll give you a bit of advance information on them to check them out. The first one is from the country of Malawi. The national ham team of 8 Malawi amateur operators will be operating as 7 Quebec 1 Alpha between October 18th and October 24th. And that will include an entry in the CQ Worldwide SSB DX Contest. They'll be on all of the HF bands using CW, SSB, and digital communications.
So, first, the GAMBIA will have 5 hams from the Netherlands that will be active as Charlie 5 Yankee during October the 23rd to the 29th. Operation will be from 160 to 6 meters with a focus on CW and SSB. And, of course, an entry in the CQ Worldwide SSB Contest will be included. And again, in the GAMBIA, Luc, Fox 5, Romeo Alpha Victor as Charlie 5 Romeo will be returning to the GAMBIA during October 18th to October 31st, following up on a previous visit where money was raised to build a new classroom for infants. The plan this time is to build 2 more classrooms and to start a radio club. Charlie 5 Romeo will be operating during the October 18th to November 12th. They will also be there during the CQ Worldwide SSB Contest with their call sign, Charlie 5 Romeo.
In Angola, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the independence of Angola, a team of Spanish and Portuguese operators will be active from near Luanda as Delta 2 Alpha during October 17th through the 28th.
And finally, we have Wallis and Futuna. The DX Obsessed group of American ham operators will be operating as Fox Whiskey 5 Kilo, October 20th to November 7th. There will be an entry in the CQ Worldwide SSB Contest included. Operation before and after the contest from 160 to 6 meters using RTTY, FT4, FT8, and SSB with 3 stations. And we are out of time.
We thank you for tuning in today. We would love to hear from you if you have any questions or comments about the show. Our email address is radioreport@yahoo.com. Our show is live streamed and archived at CKUT.ca. And we have fixed the problem with our Facebook group. A number of you may have had difficulty getting there, and we have straightened the problem out. So look for us on Facebook, International Radio Report, and we are pushing our way towards the 1,000th member. So if you haven't had a chance to join that Facebook group, please do so. And finally, our YouTube channel is available with our current show and previous shows for you to listen to at your convenience. Go to youtube.com/@IRR and you can subscribe to the channel there as well. Have a great week, everybody. Tune us in again next week here on the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Radio Canada International.
Radio-Canada International.